Good evening, friends. Today, our Honorable Finance Minister, Shri Arun Jaitley, presented the Finance Bill 2015 in the Parliament, and I am going to share with you some of the very important changes which he brought in the regime of service tax. Friends, the entire changes can be divided for a better understanding into the four different parts based on the applicability, that when these changes will be applicable. First of all, I will discuss with you the changes which will become applicable from the 1st of March, that is from tomorrow, 2015. Friends, in this category there are 5 changes which I have summarized in the following way. Friends, first of all, a very welcome change which is introduced in the regime of service tax, that is under the Service Tax Rules 1994, that is in relation to the issuing of invoice in a digital format and maintenance of record. Now, under the Rule 4, Rule 4A and Rule 5 of the Service Tax Rules 1994, you can not only raise the invoice signed digitally, but also you can maintain the record digitally, and that can be authenticated by using the digital signature. Dear friends, the second change which is there, which will become applicable from the 1st of March, is that is in relation to the Rule 4, Sub-Rule 7 of the Senate Credit Rules 2004. Now my dear friends, you are well aware that in case of a partial reverse charge, there was an anomaly that the credit of the partial reverse charge, even if you are paying to the government exchequer the portion on which you have to pay the tax, you are not supposed to claim the Senate credit. But now, by virtue of this amendment which is introduced after this Finance Bill 2015, you can even claim the credit of the partial reverse charge service tax so paid. A very welcome second change under the regime of Senate Credit Rules itself, that is the Rule 4, Sub-Rule 7, once again, the proviso, wherein it was mentioned in the Finance Bill 2014 that the credit of an invoice which is issued after the 1st of September 2014, the credit can be claimed only within a period of 6 months. Now, this 6 months has been extended to 1 year. Now, from the 1st of March 2015, you can claim the Senate credit on an invoice even up to a period of 1 year from the date of invoice. Friends, apart from that, there is a rescinding of the notification number 42/2012, which is even in any case was redundant, so I will not take much of your time on the same. A welcome next change which is applicable from the 1st of March 2015, that is in relation to the authority for advance ruling. Right now, the authority for advance ruling was limited only and only to a resident or a foreign private corporate body. That is, in case you are a private limited company, a resident or a foreign, you are eligible to apply for the advance ruling. But now even a firm can also apply for the advance ruling. And in case, what is the definition of a firm? I just wish to clarify you. Even the LLPs, the sole proprietorship, or the one person company which is newly introduced in the Companies Act 2013 are also eligible to apply for the authority of advance ruling. The second category of changes which will become applicable from the first day of April 2015, I am going to discuss with you. And the first and the most important change is there under the mega exemption. My dear friends, you are aware that while notification number 25/2012, we were having the 42 different mega exemptions available by a service provider. Now, in case of in this notification, there was a clause number 12, wherein in case you are rendering the services for construction, repair and maintenance, erection, commissioning of certain properties, then the same was not supposed to, you are not supposed to charge and pay the service tax on the same. There were 6 categories under the same. But now, my dear friend, by virtue of this amendment which will be introduced from the 1st of April 2015, there will be the 3 activities only. Now, the 3 activities which are, number 1, a civil structure of a government Number 2, a structure meant predominantly for educational, clinical, art or cultural establishment, and a residential complex predominantly for self-use by the employees. So these three will become taxable. I wish to clarify once again to all of you that in case you are constructing a government building, you are constructing a school which is owned by the government, or a clinical or a art or cultural establishment, then from the 1st of April 2015 that will become taxable under the service tax net. Then my dear friends, again there was a clause number 14 which was providing the exemption in relation to the construction of airport or a port. But now this exemption, this benefit will be again withdrawn from the first day of April 2015, meaning thereby in case you are rendering any service related to the construction, erection, commissioning or installation of airport or port, that will become taxable under the service tax net. Likewise, there was an exemption available that in case you are a performing artist or a folk or a classical art performer and you are rendering a service in relation to the music, dance, theatre, then the exemption was there that you are not supposed to charge and pay the service tax. But in case from the 1st of April 2015, in case you are charging more than 1 lakh rupees, that will be subject to service tax as provided under the notification number 25/2006. Next, my dear friend, that is in relation to the transportation services. You are aware that under the clause 20 there was exemption available that in case you are rendering the services of transportation of food stuff, the same will not be taxable along with the agriculture produce. But now this word has been replaced to the food grain. Now only and only the food grains, including, meaning thereby food grain plus rice, pulses, flour, milk and salt. So only these activities, these products, if are being transported by the GTA, then only the same will not be subject to service tax. Likewise, my dear friends, there was an exemption available. There was exemption available under the clause 29 of the mega exemption. That is the services provided by the agent of a mutual fund, a distributor in relation to the asset management company, a lottery selling agent. My dear friend, I am just wish to apprise you that from the 1st of April 2015, all these benefits will go away. Now the services provided by an agent of a mutual fund, a AMC or a lottery ticket agent will be subject to service tax. Dear friends, apart from this, there are few certain exemptions which are newly introduced and will be applicable from the 1st of April 2015. That is in relation to the ambulance. Yes, in case you are rendering a services that you are providing the services for the ambulance for the way of, to the clinical establishment, then the same will not be subject to service tax. And as explained by the Honorable Finance Minister in the Parliament, that the life insurance in relation to the Varisht Pension Bima Yojana, the same will be outside the purview of service tax. Likewise, there are certain benefits like, for example, common effluent treatment plant, the services of a preconditioning, pre-cooling, ripening, waxing, retail packing of agriculture produce, and then the services in relation to the admission to the museum, zoo, national park, wildlife sanctuary and a tiger reserve will not be subject to service tax. Likewise, a very important that you are going with your family to see the movie. Now my dear friends, the services rendered by the exhibitor, that is the cinema hall owner, and he is paying certain amount to the distributor for taking the distribution license, the same will be outside the service tax net. My dear friend, then there are certain changes which will become applicable from the 1st of April itself. That is in relation to the GTA abatement services, abatement in the three different services, that is GTA, transportation of goods by rail, train, and the transportation of goods by vessels. My dear friend, earlier there was a situation that in all these three services there were the three different abatements. On the railway you were paying the service tax on 30%. On GTA you were paying the service tax on 25%. And in case of vessels, the goods transportation by vessels, you were paying the service tax on the 40%. And yes, certain credits were available in case of a transportation of goods by rail. But now my dear friend, in all these three services, just to bring the uniformity and the clarity, only and only the abatement of 70% will be available, meaning thereby on all these three services you have to pay and charge the service tax on the 30% value, and with a condition, a very important condition you have to understand, that the no SENVAT credit will be available even of a capital goods input or input services. Meaning thereby, in earlier cases when the railway was paying the service tax with an abatement scheme and eligible to claim the credit, SENVAT credit, now they will not be. Likewise, my dear friends, in case of passenger, the transportation of passenger by air. Now, my dear friend, earlier there was a uniform abatement available that okay, on the 40% value, whether it is a economy class or a business class, you are supposed to charge and pay the service tax. But my dear friends, now there will be the two slabs. In case it is a economy class, yes, the old abatement will continue, that you are liable to charge and pay the service tax on the 40% value. But in case it is a business class, then the taxable portion will be 60% rather than 40%. Then my dear friend, now earlier there was a benefit available to a foreman of a chit, that okay, who is managing the chit fund, and 70% value was abated and 30% value was only taxable. Though they clarified that this there were certain judgment that their services at all are not taxable, but now since they have clarified that their services are taxable, and now again they removed the abatement which was available to this foreman of the chit. That is meaning thereby 100% of the incentive which the foreman is receiving will be subject to service tax. Dear friends, in the same category there are certain changes for the reverse charge mechanism. Earlier, in the case of a manpower supply and a security services, in case the services provided by an individual HUF partnership firm to a body corporate, there was a system that 25% will be paid by the service provider and the 75% will be paid by the service receiver. But now, from the 1st of April 2015, the entire amount, that is 100% of the service tax payable, will be paid by the service recipient. Likewise, in case of a mutual fund distributor, as I mentioned you, it will become taxable from the 1st of April 2015. The two new reverse charge, in case of a mutual fund distributor and in case of a lottery distributor, again there will be a reverse charge, that the person who is receiving the service will pay the 100% of the service tax applicable therein. Friends, SENVAT credit I have already discussed with you. In case of SENVAT credit, the changes I have already discussed with you. So I will not take much of your time on this particular aspect. There are certain definition portion which is further being defined. Now my dear friend, coming to the third category of changes which I am going to share with you, that is in relation to the changes which will become effective from the date of enactment of the finance bill. Say for example, if the enactment is on say 9th of May, so these changes will be applicable from the 9th of May or the 10th of May, whatever the date of enactment will be there, as we have witnessed in the earlier years. Dear friends, at the first of all, I wish to clarify you that earlier in our Finance Act 1994 and then amended thereafter, there was certain times we are using the word government, but the government was never defined. Now in this budget, in this Finance Bill 2015, the government has defined what is the meaning of a government. And then for the second change which I am sharing with you, that is in relation to the transaction in money. As I mentioned you, chit fund. As I mentioned you that now there will not be any abatement available to the foreman for the commission received. I just wish to explain you that now the chit fund for which there were certain judgments which were in the favor of the assessee, that the activity of a foreman is not subject to service tax. They have inserted an explanation under section 65B subsection 44 of the act, that is which defines the services, that these services, the services provided by the foreman, will be subject to service tax. Likewise, they further clarified that in case you are a principal, you are rendering certain services which is not subject to service tax, but in case you are receiving certain services from an agent, the similar kind of a services you outsource, it is not meaning thereby that the services of agent will also be will also be exempted and will not be subject to service tax. They clarified the same situation, and again there were certain decision and the confusion and the litigation in relation to the reimbursement of expenses. Again they clarified under section 67 while reviewing the order of the Honorable High Court of Delhi, that is Intercontinental Technocrat, that is 2013-29 STR 9, that the reimbursement is not subject to service tax. Now they have inserted an explanation specifically in the definition of a consideration to clarify that the reimbursements will be subject to service tax unless and otherwise specifically exempted. Now coming to the next leg of my discussion, that is on the applicable from the date of enactment under section 73 subsection 1B, It is a very important change, my dear friends. I just wish to update you that today if you are filing your service tax return, though it is not possible, but if in case you are filing your service tax return showing that your output liability is there and you are not paying the service tax, meaning thereby with a payable tax, if you are filing a service tax return along with a payable service tax, then as per the new insertion of section 73 subsection 1b, the department will be eligible to invoke the section 87, meaning thereby they can attach your banks, they can submit your, they can advise your debtors directly for the direct payment to the government exchequer. So it is very important to understand that in case you have certain output liabilities, you are filing your service tax return by showing the same, it will attract section 87 invocation. Likewise, my dear friend, there was a confusion. You are well aware under section 73 subsection 3, in case you are paying your service tax along with the interest, even on the instance of the department, you are not supposed to pay any penalty. But then the government introduced a new section 73 subsection 4a few years back, that minimum 25% penalty, that is 1% per month, will be liable. But now they have removed that section 73 subsection 4a, because that in practically on the basis of the interpretation, that was redundant and only creating the litigation. Now, my dear friends, coming to the penalty, earlier there was a section 80 which was providing a possibility that the penalties can be condoned in case there was a bona fide mistake. But now, since the section 80 has been removed, they have again restructured the section 76, 78 and imposed that in case you are paying the service tax, in case you are paying the service tax within the 30 days, within the 30 days of issuance of any show cause notice, then there will not be any penalty under section 76. But in case you are paying the service tax along with the interest within 30 days from the communication of the order of the SCN, yes, they issued a SCN, you can deposit a tax along with the interest, then there will be no penalty under section 76. Automatically section 80 will be available to you, though that was omitted. But in case you are paying the service tax after issuance of order in original for the show cause notice, then within 30 days if you are paying, then the penalty amount will be 25%. But in case you are paying, say for example you filed an appeal before the tribunal and the tribunal is issuing an order, for example, just I am taking an example that there was a demand of 2 lakhs rupees. By virtue of the second clause I discussed with you, you are supposed to pay a penalty of 50,000. Now, the honorable bench of the tribunal reduce your demand from 2 lakhs rupees to 1 lakh rupees, meaning thereby now you will be eligible to use this proviso of paying a reduced penalty of 25% on 1 lakh rupees within 30 days. Likewise, in case of section 78, now there in section 78, you are well aware that section 78 can be invoked when there is a fraud, collusion, misstatement or concealment of fact. Then there is no zero penalty. The minimum penalty is 15%, meaning thereby if you are depositing your service tax along with the interest within 30 days from the issuance of show cause notice, then you are supposed to pay a 15% of the service tax as a penalty. But in case you are paying the service tax and interest after the issuance of the order in original on the show cause notice, then as per the earlier discussed in the 76, you are supposed to pay a penalty of 25% and then the reduced penalty in case of the reduced amount by the honorable bench of tribunal. Friends, there are certain transition provisions which I will not take, because that is only a kind of a redundancy has been removed, and the delegation of special powers and the removal of certain provisions in the settlement commission, they are all redundant, so they have removed just to give you a very transparent and a clear regime. Now, my dear friends, coming to the last point, last leg of my discussion, that is the changes which will be applicable after the date, after the enactment of the finance bill. They will issue a notification. So, for example, the act is getting enacted, the bill is getting enacted on the 10th of May. Maybe they will be issuing a notification on the 15th of May or 20th of May that okay, from the 1st of June these provisions will be applicable. So, the date which will be notified after the enactment of the finance bill, these 3-4 changes will be applicable. The first one is a very important to each one of us, that is the change in rate of tax. My dear friend, today we are paying the service tax at the rate of 12% with a 2% education cess and 1% secondary and higher education cess. My dear friend, I just wish to update you. Now they have subsumed this all cess into the service tax for the regime of upcoming regime of GST. You are well aware that the constitutional bill on the GST is already tabled on the parliament, and in case GST is coming, then there will be a uniform rate of maybe a 16% or a 20%. But yes, I believe that cesses will not be there. So now, just to go taking a step towards the GST, they subsume this all cess into the service tax with an enhanced rate of service tax, that is 14%. Now my dear friend, rather than you are paying 12.36%, you will be paying a service tax of 14%. And very interestingly, you have to note down, you have to see what will happen, that apart from this 14%, the government in this finance bill 2015 has also introduced a very, very important provision, that there will be a Swachh Bharat cess. There will be a Swachh Bharat cess of 2%. But maybe it is wrong or right, I am not aware. They mentioned it will be on the value of service. It will not be on the tax, it will be on the value of service. So if I am reading right, I am understanding right, it will be 2% extra on the 14%, meaning thereby it will be the 16% of service tax rather than 14.28. Because in case they are writing that it will be 2% on the service tax, meaning thereby the 2% on the 14%. But they are writing the 2% on the value of service, meaning thereby it will be additional 2% apart from the 14%. So service tax may go up to 16%, but yes, we have to wait and watch and see that what will happen. Likewise, my dear friend, there are certain other aspects which we can discuss. There was in the negative list, I am going to share with you certain very few changes. The first change is in relation to the amusement facilities and entertainment event. My dear friend, as per the negative list, the services rendered in relation to the amusement facilities and entertainment event are not subject to service tax. But my dear friend, after this change will get notified, the services in relation to the amusement facility will become taxable straight away, and in case of an entertainment event with certain conditions, with certain benefits. For example, this is a recognized sports event, or in case of an exhibition of a cinematographic movie, circus, dance, and in case there is an award function or some concert is there and the charges for the admission is less than rupees 500, that will not be subject to service tax. My dear friend, I am coming to the last point of my discussion, that is in relation to the job work. My dear friend, you are well aware, in case of a negative list, a specific exclusion was there, the specific entry was there. Any service process amounts to manufacture or production of goods is excluded from the levy of service tax. My dear friend, in this particular case, this is the meaning thereby the job work. That is, in case you are rather than job work, I am saying in case of a manufacturing, that in case you are rendering any services which amounts to manufacture is outside the ambit of service tax. But my dear friend, a specific insertion has been there now in this budget, that in case you are rendering certain services for the purpose of liquor, that okay, in case you are rendering any services that process amounts to manufacture of alcoholic liquor for human consumption, that will be subject to service tax. So my dear friend, just to summarize you, I discussed with you the 4 different leg of my presentation, that the changes which is applicable from the 1st of March 2015. I shared with you the eligibility to issue the invoice digitally, maintaining the records digitally. Now the partial reverse charge case, you will be eligible to claim the credit, and rather than that you are eligible to claim the credit within 6 months, now it will be a 1 year. Then in case of an advance ruling, even the firms, LLP, one member company can also apply for the advance ruling. Then we discussed with you in the second leg, the construction activity for the government schools, buildings, educational, clinical and the art and cultural establishment will be taxable. I discussed with you the services in relation to the construction of an airport or port will become taxable. The performing artist, if charging more than 1 lakh rupees, that will be taxable. Rather than food stuff, it will be a food grain plus 5 items which will be exempted from the GTA services. I mentioned you that now the services of a mutual fund agent, AMC agents, then the lottery ticket agent will be taxable. I mentioned you that in case there are certain new exemptions which are being introduced for ambulance, then the Varisht Pension Bima Yojana, common effluent treatment plant, certain services in relation to the agriculture, then the entry to the museum, zoo and sanctuaries, then the exhibition of movies by the theatre owner. So these are the new entries which are getting exempted. Now then we discussed with you that in case of abatement, Rather than the 3 different abatements in the transportation services, it will be a single abatement of 30%, meaning thereby the GTA services will become more costlier. Then the business class will become costlier. Then foreman services not only become taxable, there will not be any abatement. I discussed with you. Then there will be certain changes in relation to the, they defined what is the government. They defined that the foreman services will be taxable, agency services will also be taxable. Reimbursement, they defined once again that even after the decision of the certain courts, reimbursement will be subject to service tax. As I mentioned you, section 80 is now no more there, and section 76 and 78 penalties are once again revisited and redefined to provide you a clear picture. Then my dear friends, lastly I discussed with you about the rate of tax, which is new, I just shared with you, so I will not repeat the same. So friends, this was all I wish to share with you in relation to the various changes which are being brought in through the Finance Bill 2015 in relation to service tax. Hope the deliberation will benefit you in your professional endeavor and to understand the various nitty-gritties and the intricacies of the Finance Bill 2015 specifically in relation to service tax. Thank you very much to each one of you.